Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Nosotros estamos en una zona netamente selvática. La línea de adyacencia va desde el norte hasta el sur, va desde Modesto Méndez hasta Aguas Turbias, tanto en el norte como en el sur. Esta línea tiene 215 kilómetros de extensión.
De allí vino él, se buscó creo con los de la OEA y de allí vino el proyecto para acá, para Judá. Y fue que lo dieron el terreno, y lo dieron todo que era mano de obra y el material para hacer las casas que están ahorita. Y por ese motivo estamos aquí viviendo todavía.
La misión continúa trabajando en la implementación de medidas de fomento de la confianza mientras se aguarda el resultado del reclamo que está atendiendo la Corte Internacional de Justicia por la disputa marítima, territorial e insular. Nuestra oficina en la zona de adyacencia realiza verificaciones a solicitud de ambos gobiernos, facilita reuniones y patrullajes conjuntos entre las Fuerzas Armadas y promueve una cultura de paz y cooperación entre las comunidades locales.
Children will be children. And they have harmony. They don't see each other as a different country, but they see each other that they're growing together.
De la Unión Europea.
Hoy, esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos, no podemos ser neutrales.
More than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
SETI's results for 2018 proves our effectiveness as a development partner, placing people at the center of our work and leveraging partnerships and cooperation to transform policy imperatives into action. With an eye on the rapidly changing global context, SETI is innovating to constructively address the emerging challenges and opportunities for the region. As part of our competitiveness program, SETI is designing precise tools to assess assets and capabilities in the productive sector to determine paths towards higher value goods and services. As our flagship program for partnerships, the Americas Competitiveness Exchange on Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the OAS, will continue to leverage good practices and the power of networks to increase trade and investment in the region.
For us, the role of the OAS is very important, connecting countries, connecting governments and private sector. and letting us know what other countries are doing it and how we can replicate that in our countries to enhance development.
For me, who has come here to look at how can we develop our own ecosystem, our own innovation hubs, our own accelerators, I think seeing this, touching, feeling it, seeing the transformation, seeing how quickly you've made it happen, is a testament to what is possible. So I believe all of us leave here stronger than ever.
The Working Group of Experts on Subnational Competitiveness, the GTEX, is our gateway program to promote local economic competitiveness policies alongside municipal and state-level governments, together with the private sector and academia.
Este tipo de reuniones te sirven para darte cuenta de todo lo que se está viviendo en América Latina sobre los temas de competitividad. Y hoy justamente en este sector estamos viendo sobre todo los temas de innovación tecnológica, pues que si hablamos de competitividad tenemos que hablar de tecnología. Y me está ayudando mucho para ver el panorama de ver lo que están haciendo otras ciudades y lo que podemos llegar a aplicar también nosotros en México.
The Hub on the Transfer and Commercialization of Technology is strengthening national innovation ecosystems by training budding entrepreneurs to take promising products and services from idea to market.
¿Por qué es importante que estemos juntos en esto? Porque la región tiene que estar unida y me parece que hay mucho conocimiento en la región que todavía no está explotado comercialmente como podría ser, y esta es la mejor manera de hacerlo.
Tenemos la proyección de cada año generar y compartir nuevas experiencias entre aquellos que contribuyen a la innovación. Queremos cambiar el cómo lo hemos estado haciendo en Latinoamérica. Queremos generar la unión de los países, queremos colaborar.
Our virtual platform on technology foresight, Prospecta Americas, will support OAS member states in identifying and mapping future trends and technological development of critical importance for the Americas.
Este esfuerzo, el cual viene siendo apoyado por la Organización de los Estados Americanos, nos permitirá tener una gran información para poder mapear estas iniciativas de innovación y poder que ellas contribuyan al crecimiento económico, a la competitividad y al bienestar de nuestras naciones.
Como bien sabemos, nos encontramos ya en la cuarta revolución industrial, la que está cambiando rápidamente la forma en que se hace negocios, se produce, se consume y se genera bienestar y entretenimiento en el mundo. Es la mayor amenaza, tal vez la mejor oportunidad que tenemos en nuestras naciones.
The Inter-American Teacher Education Network, the I-10, is working to improve the quality of teachers with an emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. In 2019, the I-10 launched the first STEM Teacher Fellowship of the Americas. The Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, ECPA, is working with governments in the Caribbean to advance electric mobility and clean transport as the sub-region pursues energy independence. Under our Integrated Water Resource Management Program, SETI is responding to the demand for platforms and applications that capture and disseminate real-time information. This includes the expansion of Costa Rica's Plataforma Interactiva de Aplicación del Clima Tropical to the rest of Central America to help build resilient agriculture. The Inter-American Committee on Ports is building human and institutional capacity through public-private partnerships to address port modernization, logistics, and security. CooperaNet, SETI's multi-stakeholder platform for cooperation and partnerships, is being relaunched in 2019, responding to member states' call for a more robust hub for cooperation. As more consumers begin or end their shopping process online, SETI has entered into a partnership with the private sector to digitize millions of micro, small, and medium enterprises across the region.
Las buenas noticias es que sabemos por qué están fracasando, porque no son visibles. Y el hecho de que ahora lo puedan ser, haciéndolo ellas mismas, no solamente rompemos las tres barreras del tiempo, conocimiento y dinero, sino que les permitimos tener éxito y dejar de fracasar a los porcentajes que lo hacen ahora.
Es una herramienta que sin duda acerca a las MIPYMES hacia la demanda que hoy está migrando a Internet y con eso pretendemos mejorar las ventas y el posicionamiento de las empresas pequeñas.
As we look to the future, the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development will continue to leverage cooperation and partnerships to expand our reach, proving that together we are much more than the sum of our 34 member states.
Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Nosotros estamos en una zona netamente selvática. La línea de adyacencia va desde el norte hasta el sur, va desde Modesto Méndez hasta Aguas Turbias, tanto en el norte como en el sur. Esta línea tiene 215 kilómetros de extensión.
De allí vino él, se buscó creo con los de la OEA y de allí vino el proyecto para acá, para Judá. Y fue que lo dieron el terreno, y lo dieron todo lo que era mano de obra y el material para hacer las casas que están ahorita. Y por ese motivo estamos aquí viviendo todavía.
La misión continúa trabajando en la implementación de medidas de fomento de la confianza mientras aguarda el resultado del reclamo que está atendiendo la Corte Internacional de Justicia por la disputa marítima, territorial e insular. Nuestra oficina en la zona de adyacencia realiza verificaciones a solicitud de ambos gobiernos, facilita reuniones y patrullajes conjuntos entre las Fuerzas Armadas y promueve una cultura de paz y cooperación entre las comunidades locales.
Children will be children, and they have harmony. They don't see each other as a different country, but they see each other that they're growing together.
Esta organización es el guardián regional en defensa de la democracia, la libertad y los derechos humanos. Los países se han comprometido con estos valores a través de instrumentos legales como la Carta Democrática Interamericana, la Convención Americana de Derechos Humanos y todas las demás convenciones interamericanas. Nuestro trabajo es mantener los más altos estándares. Debemos ser objetivos, analizar los hechos, denunciar cuando veamos corrupción, inequidad o amenazas a la libertad. En esos casos no podemos ser neutrales.
More than 100 years since the inauguration of this building, the OAS headquarters, our institution still brings together the peoples of the Americas to address our responsibilities as a partnership of nations. As we look to the future, our work must also focus on the construction of a positive agenda that continues to favorably impact millions of lives every day.
SETI's results for 2018 proves our effectiveness as a development partner, placing people at the center of our work and leveraging partnerships and cooperation to transform policy imperatives into action. With an eye on the rapidly changing global context, SETI is innovating to constructively address the emerging challenges and opportunities for the region. As part of our competitiveness program, SETI is designing precise tools to assess assets and capabilities in the productive sector to determine paths towards higher value goods and services. As our flagship program for partnerships, the Americas Competitiveness Exchange on Innovation and Entrepreneurship, the ACE, will continue to leverage good practices and the power of networks to increase trade and investment in the region.
For us, the role of the OAS is very important, connecting countries, connecting governments and private sector, and letting us know what other countries are doing it and how we can replicate that in our countries to enhance development.
For me, who has come here to look at how can we develop our own ecosystem, our own innovation hubs, our own accelerators, I think seeing this, touching, feeling it, seeing the transformation, seeing how quickly you made it happen is a testament to what is possible. So I believe all of us leave here stronger than ever.
The Working Group of Experts on Subnational Competitiveness, the GTEX, is our gateway program to promote local economic competitiveness policies alongside municipal and state-level governments, together with the private sector and academia.
Este tipo de reuniones te sirven para darte cuenta de todo lo que se está viviendo en América Latina sobre los temas de competitividad. Y hoy justamente en este sector estamos viendo sobre todo los temas de innovación tecnológica. Pues que si hablamos de competitividad tenemos que hablar de tecnología. Y me está ayudando mucho para abrir el panorama de ver lo que están haciendo otras ciudades y lo que podemos llegar a aplicar también nosotros en México.
The hub on the transfer and commercialization of technology is strengthening national innovation ecosystems by training budding entrepreneurs to take promising products and services from idea to market.
¿Por qué es importante que estemos juntos en esto? Porque la región tiene que estar unida y me parece que hay mucho conocimiento en la región que todavía no está explotado comercialmente como podría ser, y esta es la mejor manera de hacerlo.
Tenemos la proyección de cada año generar y compartir nuevas experiencias entre aquellos que contribuyen a la innovación. Queremos cambiar el cómo lo hemos estado haciendo en Latinoamérica. Queremos generar la unión de los países, queremos colaborar.
Our virtual platform on technology foresight, Prospecta Americas, will support OAS member states in identifying and mapping future trends and technological development of critical importance for the Americas.
Este esfuerzo, el cual viene siendo apoyado por la Organización de los Estados Americanos, nos permitirá tener una gran información para poder mapear estas iniciativas de innovación y poder que ellas contribuyan al crecimiento económico, a la competitividad y al bienestar de nuestras naciones.
Como bien sabemos, nos encontramos ya en la cuarta revolución industrial, la que está cambiando rápidamente la forma en que se hace negocios, se produce, se consume y se genera bienestar y entretenimiento en el mundo. Es la mayor amenaza, tal vez la mejor oportunidad que tenemos en nuestras naciones.
The Inter-American Teacher Education Network, the I-10, is working to improve the quality of teachers with an emphasis on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education. In 2019, the I-10 launched the first STEM Teacher Fellowship of the Americas. The Energy and Climate Partnership of the Americas, ECPA, is working with governments in the Caribbean to advance electric mobility and clean transport as the sub-region pursues energy independence. Under our Integrated Water Resource Management Program, SETI is responding to the demand for platforms and applications that capture and disseminate real-time information. This includes the expansion of Costa Rica's Plataforma Interactiva de Aplicación del Clima Tropical to the rest of Central America to help build resilient agriculture. The Inter-American Committee on Ports is building human and institutional capacity through public-private partnerships to address port modernization, logistics, and security. CooperaNet, SETI's multi-stakeholder platform for cooperation and partnerships, is being relaunched in 2019, responding to member states' call for a more robust hub for cooperation. As more consumers begin or end their shopping process online, SETI has entered into a partnership with the private sector to digitize millions of micro, small, and medium enterprises across the region.
Las buenas noticias es que sabemos por qué están fracasando, porque no son visibles. Y el hecho de que ahora lo puedan ser, haciéndolo ellas mismas, no solamente rompemos las tres barreras del tiempo, conocimiento y dinero, sino que les permitimos tener éxito y dejar de fracasar a los porcentajes que lo hacen ahora.
Es una herramienta que sin duda acerca a las MIPYMES hacia la demanda que hoy está migrando a Internet, y con eso pretendemos mejorar las ventas y el posicionamiento de las empresas pequeñas.
As we look to the future, the Executive Secretariat for Integral Development will continue to leverage cooperation and partnerships to expand our reach, proving that together we are much more than the sum of our 34 member states.
Me and my kids have been there for over an year right now. And children are friends. It doesn't matter where they come from.
Our quorum, we're just wrapping up the trial and checking out the live streaming and webcast. So, as you can see, and I'm going to read the names.
Bolivia, Brasil, Canadá, Chile, Costa Rica, Dominica, Ecuador, El Salvador, Estados Unidos, Grenada, Guatemala, Guyana, Haití, Honduras, Jamaica, México, Nicaragua, Panamá, Paraguay, República Dominicana, San Kitts y Nevis, San Vicente y las Granadinas, Santa Lucía, Surinam, Trinidad y Tobago, Uruguay y Venezuela. Tenemos quórum, Presidenta.
We'll have a quorum, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much. Good morning, esteemed representatives and permanent observers, delegates, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, and employees of the General Secretariat. Now that we have a statutory quorum, as read by the Secretariat, I'm very honored to call to order this regular session of the Permanent Council. Dear colleagues, in keeping with what is stipulated in Article 43 of the Rules and Regulations, I would put before you for your consideration here at the Permanent Council our draft agenda in document CP/OD 2315/21. As there are no observations, are there any comments? Then adopted. Adopted. Now I should like to warmly welcome the Permanent Council here at the OAS to the Permanent Representative of Costa Rica, Ambassador Alejandra Solano Cabaceta, who offered her credentials to the Secretary General of the OAS on the 26th of February. Ambassador Solano has a degree in law in human rights, and she has a certificate from the Inter-American System of Protection of Human Rights and the Javeriana Pontificate University from Columbia. She has a long professional career of service to her country, both nationally as well as internationally. Her career in the public sector began in the Attorney General's Office of the Republic of Costa Rica, where she was the chief counsel, and she joined the Ministry of Foreign Relations and Culture of Costa Rica in May 2000, where she has had the positions of DG of Foreign Policy, Legal Counsel, Alternate Director of Foreign Policy, Alternate Director of Protocol and Ceremony of the State, Head of the Consular Department of the General Direction of Foreign Service, and Advisor of her Costa Rican Foreign Service. She has been Minister Counselor and General Counsel in the Embassy in Honduras, alternate of the mission of the Embassy of Costa Rica in the United States, and Minister Counselor of the Sixth Commission of International Law in the United Nations in New York, accredited as representative of Costa Rica in the work group of special tribunals and the Committee of Terrorism of the Security Council, General Counsel in the City of New York, and General Counsel in the Embassy of Costa Rica in Bogota. Dear Ambassador Solano, I would like to warmly welcome you to the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States. You have the floor, madam. Good morning. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman, ambassadors, permanent representatives, alternate, interim, permanent observers, Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, all employees of the Secretariat of the organization, and others in the permanent mission of Costa Rica, distinguished special invitees. Ladies and gentlemen, Madam Chairman, thank you very much, Roquebert, for your very kind words of welcome. I am very honored to present Costa Rica and represent Costa Rica in this organization, the Organization of American States. I'm here with a mission from our President and the Minister, Jose Solano, to be another ally alongside all of you in the very important work that this organization carries out for the benefit of all of the populations and people of the hemisphere and all of the objectives that led to its creation. The agenda has been up and running for more than a year, and we have to look at some of the health issues because of COVID-19. This has taken lives, changed families, changed our way of living and our relationships. It has exacerbated some of the structural problems and other situations that have already existed. It has also put to proof human determination to protect each other and work together to find solutions to the more resilient problems. We will have to make contributions in the analysis and the decision-taking to repair and help those who have been victims of exclusion. We have to build inclusion, which is an ethic duty, and therefore I'd like to reiterate the commitment of my country to defend us and sustain the inter-American system imbued with the protection of human rights and strengthening the democratic institutions that we have. I have been welcomed by all of you, and I'm very happy about that. In a month where we commemorate the National Women's Day for Costa Rica, the role of women in all arenas of society is crucial. Her presence and active participation in the political agenda and the economic arena is necessary and should be promoted. Democracy, representative democracy, cannot exist without our contributions. The power of decision-taking and building a public agenda should be accessible to everyone. Gender parity in the organization has been a goal of Costa Rica's. Today, we're very happy to see how most of the positions in the Inter-American Court of Human Rights have women. One of them is magistrate from Costa Rica in the Constitutional Hall from the Supreme Court of Justice in Costa Rica, Doña Nancy Hernandez. This is a clear-cut message that we are moving ahead towards gender parity to guarantee all of these conditions for inclusion, justice, democracy, and respect for human rights. We have to address all the challenges for security in the hemisphere with a multidimensional approach to prevent and deal effectively with all of the existent and emergent threats. Latin America continues to be one of the most violent regions of the world. We have to deal with this scourge, and we also have to use all of the tools and mechanisms that we have at our fingertips in this organization. And like many others, we have to promote and have international instruments when it comes to disarmament and non-proliferation. In the fight against drug trafficking, we can also promote San Jose Convention for regional efforts to come together. We have to count on all interagency articulation and the best practices against the abuse of drugs and drug trafficking. And that's why we have committed with the Inter-American Commission Against the Drug Abuse, CICAD, to move forward and be the vice chairmanship this year and be chair next year. We will continue to work alongside all delegations when it comes to the fight against terrorism and transnational organized crime. We will build and transfer capacities, and this will allow us to address all of the challenges, both national as well as others, so that we can increase security for all inhabitants, particularly those who are more vulnerable. It is a responsibility that we cannot overlook. And right now, Costa Rica has two pro temp chairmanships, the chair of the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ECLAC, for 2022, and the chair of the Central American Integration System, SICA, for the first quarter this year. And we're commemorating the bicentennial of its independence in Central America. Now, in both responsibilities, we have underscored the importance of multilateral organizations as we build back our economies, and we are on the front lines to work courageously and with a long-term vision, hand in hand with our international partners, as we put together and put back this planet, particularly in our region, which needs to have effective multilateralism with an impact. This began with a health emergency, which has become a global threat on many different fronts, and it has serious consequences as we move towards sustainable development objectives. So along that line, it's really very important to underscore the fundamental role of the integral development pillar of the OAS to recover our hemisphere with a transforming vision and with international cooperation and solidarity as cornerstones. A crisis such as the one that we are currently dealing with gives us an opportunity to implement policies that have tools as well as other innovative mechanisms, creative ones, that are adequate so that we can address all of the global social, environmental, economic, financial challenges that have been brought to fore because of the pandemic, and where we put people at the forefront and at the center, and will allow us to be inclusive, sustainable, and robust. Strengthening cooperation, especially international cooperation, should be the driving force to move ahead with this integral development agenda. Today, more so than ever, we have to use the tools from multilateralism so that we can move from words to action. And that is why Costa Rica would also like to invite all member states to put their proposals so that we can have a more healthy, sustainable, and prosperous world, such as CICAP, which is a platform launched by the WHO to exchange information and knowledge and intellectual property as we implement vaccines and fight against COVID-19. We've also called on financial international organizations and other organizations to set up a fund to deal with the economic issues of COVID-19. FACE, it's called in English. And this is a proposal to deal with economics. In the environment, we would like to promote a high ambition coalition for people and nature so that we can achieve coverage for 30% of maritime areas and that are protected by 2030, which would be a solution based on nature, given the climate crisis. So on that particular point, I would like to understand that Costa Rica's plan has just enjoyed 2 years to date, and we already have underway more than 90% of the goals established for 2022, and 25% of the goals have been fulfilled, with a view to having full-fledged mission in the future. And the question is, can we? And yes, we can. So to conclude then, in budget and administrative affairs today, as never before, the region is going through an economic crisis, which is reflected in the finances of the organization. The budget has shrunk And invariably, this has had an impact in earmarking resources and in personnel. We recognize the difficult task that we have, and in the organization, we would like to say that we should continue with our commitments and to follow up the priorities of our membership with limited resources. Nonetheless, it is necessary to pull together so that we can have greater management, more effective and responsible management in the use of the resources that we do have. We underscore the importance of accountability with all details and transparency as we analyze the mandates as indispensable points to take informed decisions that promote austerity, belt tightening, and savings. We have a lot of financial and administrative challenges before us right now, but Costa Rica trusts that member states, together with the Secretariat in all arenas, can find measures and will reform everything in our tight economic situation. Madam Chairman, my dear colleagues, Costa Rica once again underscores its trust and commitment to multilateralism with a vision to solving conflicts. This has been crucial and will continue to be so as we respect human rights and human law. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Solano, for your presentation. I would like to offer the floor to the coordinator of the regional groups and delegations who might like to welcome the permanent representative of Costa Rica. Ambassador Hatiba, coordinator of the Aladi Group. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. On behalf of the delegations that make up the Aladi Group, we would like to offer a warm welcome to Ambassador Alejandra Solana Cabaceta, the new permanent representative from Costa Rica to the Organization of American States. She honors our great family and also reflects the commitment of her country for the inclusion of women in high positions. Today we have 9 ambassadors in this hemispheric forum, and I'm very happy to also underscore the ambassador's career in public service of Costa Rica as a career ambassador, as well as her far-reaching experience in legal issues in the United Nations, as she headed up her country's work in the General Assembly on issues in international law and as a representative in the special group and the other committees, as well as all of her service for Costa Rica in the United States and her experience that she brings to us. We truly believe that her knowledge and her recognized talent will prove to strengthen our work and the 4 pillars of action in the OAS, as well as drive forward hemispheric initiatives for the benefit of our people. Dear Ambassador and colleagues, you have our full-fledged support as we walk hand in hand with Aladi and as we move to the greatest success during your term. Thank you very much. Madam Chairman, thank you very much, Ambassador Hatiba. I'd now like to give the floor to the permanent representative from Mexico. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. The presence of women strengthens our democratic life, and this is another side of inclusion and an example of the true commitment as we move ahead with the program of women. We celebrate Costa Rica, and that has once again been accredited and sent a permanent representative to the OAS. This has traditionally been occupied by a male, and where for 70 years no woman was in the General Secretariat. We'd like to warmly welcome you, Ambassador Solana. Your wonderful career in the ministry and abroad shows us that we will truly appreciate your contributions into the inter-American system. Mexico and Costa Rica have a lot of overlap in all of the crucial areas to continue to build multilateralism for peace and development. And we defend all of these things for all people. This is very important to continue to work very closely with your delegation. Your arrival strengthens the presidency of your country and women here at the OAS, where we're still a minority group that moves ahead with the feminist discourse that we've adopted as a multilateral organization. This is what we have to do. We would like to wish you the very best in this new role. You have Mexico's full-fledged support to strengthen all of the objectives of the OAS Charter and to promote the best practices and the highest inter-American standards, particularly as regards human rights and as we use or threaten to use force in this region. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Baños. Ambassador Adsut from Canada has the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Good morning, colleagues. And on behalf of Canada, I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Ambassador Alejandra Solana as Costa Rica's new permanent representative to the Organization of American States. Ambassador, my colleagues at the Embassy in Costa Rica have had the pleasure of working with you in the past in your role as the Director of Foreign Policy at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And we certainly look forward to continuing that collaboration here at the OAS and finding new opportunities as well. Costa Rica and Canada have always had an excellent relationship, both within the OAS and bilaterally. We share many values and priorities, including on human rights, gender equality, and protecting the environment, issues that you raised already this morning. Costa Rica plays a very important role in this organization and in the region. A long commitment to peace, to human rights, and to the environment have been and remain an inspiration for us and for many of our colleagues, and it helps guide our work together. You and your mission frequently, because of the commitments that you have made and the work that your diplomats so ably carry out, have been able to help us all advance together on these issues. For Canada, it's also a very special moment because just last year, our two countries celebrated 100 years of official relations and friendship. Ambassador Solano, we are delighted to have you amongst us. Welcome, Pura Vida.
Gracias.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'll give the floor to Ambassador Cordero from Honduras. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, dear colleagues. Secretary General, Assistant Secretary General, on behalf of my delegation, I would like to give our colleague from Costa Rica a warm welcome. Welcome to Ambassador Solano. With your great experience professionally and in diplomacy in so many different institutions, I have no doubt that you will be a great asset to the OAS. Ambassador Solano, I wish you most success, and you can count on all of Honduras's support. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador Cordero. Panama is recognized. Thank you very much, Chair. The Panamanian delegation would like to express its warmest welcome to the Permanent Council to the distinguished permanent representative of Costa Rica, Alejandra Solano. Panama celebrates one more woman coming to make significant contributions to our efforts to achieve gender parity. We also would like to recognize the ambassador's vast experience in so many different areas such as human rights, international relations, and her work in foreign relations. This will certainly facilitate our day-to-day work within this organization, and we are convinced that her long, distinguished professional history, both domestically and internationally, will be a great contribution to Costa Rica's representation at the OAS and strengthen dialogue and seeking consensus in our region. Ambassador Solano, you can count on Panama's full support. We are aware of our brotherhood and lengthy diplomatic relations between our two countries. Thank you very much. Thank you to Panama. The American delegation is recognized.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. We joined other member states in welcoming Ambassador Alejandra Solano to the OAS. And we also joined the Ambassador of Mexico and other delegations in welcoming another woman to the Permanent Council. The United States looks forward to working with you on many critical issues facing the region, including recovering from the global pandemic. I know your strong diplomatic skills will serve you well in your time as the new permanent representative of Costa Rica. And again, we welcome you and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Gracias al representante de Estados Unidos.
Thank you to the United States. The coordinator of CARICOM is recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I trust I'm being heard. Yes. Thank you, Chair. On behalf of the 14 CARICOM member states, the delegation of Trinidad and Tobago is pleased to extend a warm Caribbean welcome and un gran abrazo to Her Excellency Ambassador Alejandra Solano Cabalceta as the permanent representative of Costa Rica to the Organization of American States. Chair, Excellencies, Ambassador Solano joins this permanent representative body of the OAS at a time of historic global and hemispheric challenge and change that have both increased the imperative for multilateral cooperation. Now in the third decade of an already distinguished career of public service, Ambassador Solano is known to many of us who may recall having met her during our bilateral engagements with the delegation of Costa Rica at the 49th regular session of the OAS in Medellin. Her immediate and seamless assumption of the responsibilities of the coordinator of the member states of the Central American Integration System, SICA, is indicative of the confidence of her government in appointing her to lead the permanent mission of Costa Rica to the OAS at this time. Ambassador Solano's arrival at the Permanent Council at this important period of Costa Rica's simultaneous pro-tempore chairmanship of SICA, as well as the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, and at a time when all OAS member states are focused on our recovery from COVID-19, including the equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines, is therefore also instructive. Ambassador Solano has acquired an optimal combination of legal and diplomatic expertise, global and hemispheric exposure, and bilateral and multilateral experience during her 24 years of public service, which have prepared her well for this important assignment at the OAS. Noting that Ambassador Solano is also being welcomed during the celebration of Women's History Month, we look forward to the contribution that she will make alongside of the other women in leadership at this Permanent Council, including the 4 female permanent representatives from the CARICOM region and the 3 other permanent representatives from the SICA region, as you collectively and individually join the ranks of women who make history. Ambassador Solano, welcome. And please be assured of the cooperation of all CARICOM delegations in our collective, coordinated and focused action to advance and promote the purposes and the principles enshrined in the charter of this organization in the mutual interest of all member states of this hemisphere. Welcome, bienvenida, and thank you.
Gracias,
Thank you, Ambassador Philip Spencer. The Ambassador of El Salvador is recognized. Wendy Acevedo. Good morning. Thank you, Chair. We echo the warm welcome to Ambassador Solano, particularly as members of SEEK. Interpreter notes the very poor sound quality. We are pleased to see a female ambassador with goals for achieving gender parity. We are convinced that her long experience and skills will be a great asset when working on priority areas for our region. Ambassador, welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much to El Salvador. Guatemala is recognized. We don't see you, Ambassador. The Guatemalan delegation, thank you very much, Chair, would like to give a warm welcome to Her Excellency Ambassador Solano, the permanent representative of Costa Rica to the OAS. Her professional experience and her personal qualities, her professional and academic experience as a human rights lawyer, working with her government, and her diplomatic career of over 20 years ensure that the participation of her country and the Central American region will be a great asset in the organization. I would particularly like to note that her designation highlights the importance of women's participation in the OAS. There are today over 12 female ambassadors here today, and we would like to see this also reflected in various bodies of the OAS and the Inter-American system. The Guatemalan delegation assures you of our support in all areas. We wish you most success, and you have already got off to a great start. Thank you very much, and welcome, Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador. Nicaragua is recognized. Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning, everyone. My delegation would like to echo the very warm welcome to Her Excellency Alejandra Solano of Costa Rica. Her message spoke to the importance of strengthening multilateralism as a central element, and particularly with a focus on sustainable development and environmental protection. Obviously, this is an area where we will work together. Her diplomatic experience will be a great asset to our organization and striking the consensus necessary to address very important issues for the entire population of the Americas. Ambassador, once again, we wish you a warm welcome to the OAS and to the Permanent Council, as well as to SICA. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ambassador Alvarado. Ambassador Monton from Spain is recognized. Good morning. I would like to give you a warm welcome, Ambassador Solano, on behalf of the permanent observers to the OAS. That is France, Italy, the Holy See, and Spain. In the framework of the excellent relationship between Spain and Costa Rica and the shared agenda aimed at environmental protection, sustainable development, peace, equality between the genders, and multilateralism, I would also like to give you a welcome. And finally, personally, I would like to note a great message of cooperation and solidarity to continue moving forward with our projects already underway, as well as new projects. Spain and the other observer countries to the OAS assure you of our full support and cooperation. Thank you very much. Ambassador Solano has requested the floor once again. You're recognized, Ambassador. Thank you very much, Ambassador. I would just like to thank all of my colleagues who spoke today. Thank you for the warm welcome, and I am anxious to get off to a running start and work on these issues that are so pressing in this organization. Thank you very much once again. Greetings. Thank you, Ambassador Solano. Unlike the other permanent councils, Sika, I would like to note that our coordinator did receive your welcome. We have been we're not always disciplined in speaking as coordinators, but I would also like to note that as well. Thank you very much. And we wish you most success at the permanent council. And I am convinced, Ambassador, that the council and the entire organization will benefit from your great experience. You are a wonderful example of professionalism, skill, and diplomacy. Thank you and welcome once again, dear colleagues. Now, at the request of the Permanent Mission of Colombia, in document CP/INF.8873/21, we will hear a presentation on the temporary statute for protection that is Colombia's commitment to Venezuelan migration. In line with the order of business today, I would like to ask that the Secretariat project the presentation of a video from Her Excellency Claudia Blum de Barberi, the Minister of Foreign Relations of the Republic of Colombia. Ambassadors and permanent representatives, distinguished members of this council, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to speak to you as part of today's session of the Permanent Council of the OAS. The migratory exodus caused by the multidimensional crisis in Venezuela is the most serious in our hemisphere. The report on the situation published by the OAS Secretariat December last concluded that 5.4 million Venezuelans have felt it necessary to leave their country and warns that in 2021, with the reopening of borders in the region, that figure might reach 7 million if the dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro continues. Colombia is the main receiving country for these migrants, and our president's government has adopted a policy of solidarity to provide humanitarian assistance and social services, making it possible for those who arrive to integrate into our country if they so decide. Over 1.7 million Venezuelans are trying to rebuild their lives in Colombia. We have many different methods with special permits, and over 750,000 migrants have been able to legalize their migration situation. And since 2019, we made a significant stride forward to prevent statelessness, deciding to recognize the nationality of over 50,000 children born in our country to Venezuelan parents. And yet, today, almost 1 million Venezuelans are irregularly present in Colombia. At the OAS General Assembly in 2019, held in Medellin, President Duque proposed adopting a temporary statute of migration protection. This was to respond to the complex exodus. Since then, we've carried out legal and technical assessments, and we adopted the temporary statute for protection for Venezuelan migrants, which will be valid for 10 years. This will make it possible for all of the Venezuelan migrants in Colombia to legalize their status, and this also is based on the shared values by our hemisphere in the area of human rights, equality, peace, and democracy. This reflects the principles laid out in the San Jose Pact, the Brazil Plan of Action, the Inter-American Program for the Promotion and Protection of Human Rights of Migrants, as well as the very charter of the Organization of American States. This is a policy that is also in line with the recommendations of the OAS Working Group to address the migration and refugee crisis. That is Venezuelan migrants and refugees. The group has noted the challenge and opportunity of integrating these people who have aspirations to work, study, and live in freedom. They have a positive impact on the region's development. Dear friends, we cannot turn a blind eye to the structural causes of the tragedy of the Venezuelan people. That is a criminal dictatorship which consistently and deliberately undermines the democratic system. If this usurpation of power does not end, it will be impossible to end this migration crisis, and the families who leave their country to seek a better future will not stop. This massive displacement of persons is a challenge that no country has been able to tackle alone, and therefore we trust that the international community, particularly the Organization of American States, will continue to strengthen their response and solidarity as well as cooperation in the face of this phenomenon. I would like to particularly underscore the announcement of the United States to provide Venezuelans with temporary protective status. I would also like to thank Canada for convening the International Donors Conference to be held on June 17th. This will be an opportunity to give impetus to regional financing for the response for refugees and migrants in 2021. Colombia hopes that international cooperation to address Venezuelan migration will strengthen this year. We expect that this will include assistance and support from the community of nations and the OAS for effective implementation of temporary protective status, which we have adopted. This status is a valuable but very complex decision, and it is important that it be successful to show the world that it is possible to build safe, orderly, and regular migration models. This will allow us to recover dignity and the hope of the Venezuelan people. Thank you. The delegation of Colombia would like to once again express its greetings to the Permanent Council and thank you to Ms. Bloom for her presentation. Now we will continue in the order of business. I'd like to give the floor to Juan Francisco Espinosa, the Director of Migración Colombia. Dr. Espinosa, welcome to the Permanent Council of the OAS. You're recognized. Thank you very much, and good morning, Chair, Mr. Secretary General, ambassadors. I'm delighted to be here with you today at this great institution. This is important for Colombia, the region, and the world. Very briefly, what is the migration reality that we have on our hands with our brothers and sisters from Venezuela in Colombia? We have gone from 53,000 migrants in 2017 to 1.7 million in January 2021, in which almost 750,000 are there legally and almost 1 million are irregularly present. And of this figure, we have about 22% minors, and only 3.4% are elderly. And this is a very active population. Over 56% are able to get ahead, but they do have many vulnerabilities. And this is a migrant population that has become more vulnerable every day. We have families with young children, infants. They are escaping a dictatorship to seek a better future. And this is a type of migration that will remain in Colombia, Peru, Chile, Ecuador, wherever their country of destination is, to build a better future for themselves. We see that they are heavily dependent on informal markets to satisfy their day-to-day needs. This is a very tragic situation. They're forced to seek food and shelter this way, and they are typically concentrated in large cities, and this is how we see these informal markets popping up. The temporary statute for protection is part of Colombia's response, led by President Duque, to effectively provide protection for their fundamental rights. And how do we do this? By legalizing their presence with a 10-year period. Once they are legally present, we already have almost 750,000 who are legally present, and the others are illegally present. But this will give them the opportunity to change that, and this will also ensure that they are able to achieve this within their first 2 years of arrival in Colombia. And that will continue so long as Venezuela is under a dictatorial regime. The cause of the migration from Venezuela is not Colombia. It is the oppressive dictatorship that is affecting the most fundamental human rights of its people. And who will have access to this registry? We already stated we have illegal and illegal migrants, and they will receive a temporary protective status permits, identification card in Colombia as well. That means that 1.7 million migrants in Venezuela present in 2021 will have access to our healthcare system and social security. They will also have access to legal conditions on the labor market in 2 phases. First of all, there will be a virtual phase. This is fundamental for us and the region, and it is the first time that we are looking at this characterization of migrants' social economic status. We look at their language skills, their physical and health, their academic preparation, and they will also have access to our COVID vaccination program. This will begin in May of this year. We hope to conclude with over 1 million taking part by the end of this year. Then we have a second phase, which will involve photographs for biometric IDs. This is to provide interoperability with our various social prosperity programs, the healthcare system, the financial sector, the ability to have a driver's license, buy property, and very important, to have access to education. This 10-year window will make it possible to obtain a digital ID. And what's more, each one of these migrants will end up with a physical ID card, and this will be a mechanism to overcome their vulnerabilities. Every child and adult will have a plastic ID card, and this will be a way of building trust that has been entirely lost by these migrants in themselves. They need to also build trust between migrants and civil society. And this is an effective way to promote inclusion. It will allow us to effectively fight human trafficking, xenophobia, exploitation, whether sexual or on the labor market, and to assist this population that has its needs that need to be met, that has been suffering. They need this in order to move forward. And this is one more example of how we are embracing our brothers and sisters from Venezuela and providing all political support. Certainly, we are also providing the necessary economic support so that these human beings and children, over 22% are children, are able to get ahead and break the vicious cycle of a lack of education and to build a better future. These are wonderful news for Colombia, the Venezuelan people, as well as for the entire world as part of brothership. To conclude, to be generous, we must give what we have and not simply what is left over. And each and every one of these families will be thankful today and forever for this opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Espinosa, for your presentation. And now we will continue following the order of business and hear from David Smolansky, who is the Commissioner of the OAS Secretary General for the Venezuelan migrant and refugee crisis. Thank you very much, Ambassador Maria Carmen Rocbert, distinguished Secretary General Luis Almagro, Your Excellency, Representative of Colombia, Claudia Bloom, Dr. Juan Francisco Espinosa, Director of Migración Colombia, Mr. Edward Stein, Special Representative of UNHCR and the OIM, ambassadors to the Permanent Council. Thank you very much for this invitation from Colombia to participate in this important session of the Permanent Council, where we have presented this temporary statute of protection for Venezuelans in Colombia. I would like to congratulate you and recognize the decision made by the government of President Ivan Duque to assist, protect, and above all, integrate over 1.7 million migrants and refugees from Venezuela and Colombia. They have come to that country as victims of a complex humanitarian emergency and human rights violations, crimes against humanity, and violence caused by the illegitimate Maduro regime. And this is an exemplary decision for the entire hemisphere. This very human policy shows brotherhood and solidarity. It will literally change the lives of so many Venezuelans, starting with about 1 million migrants and refugees who will have, for the first time, documentation. What's more, this government initiative in Colombia will make it possible for so many young people to easily join the education system, overcoming barriers to access to health care and greater opportunity for the labor market. The benefits that these Venezuelan migrants and refugees will receive from the temporary protective status will involve a series of rights and obligations, and we are convinced that this will be a great benefit for the Venezuelans. But tomorrow we will talk about the benefits received by Colombia, thanks to the contribution of the vast majority of these displaced Venezuelans through their work and entrepreneurship. They know the positive impact that safe, regular, and orderly migration have for many decades now. They were a nation that opened their doors to millions of Latin Americans, including many Colombians who made great contributions to economic growth and development in the nation, which unfortunately today has no longer been a country of destination, but a country of origin for so many millions of victims of a cruel and murderous dictatorship. And we are delighted to see the work carried out by the government of Colombia in Medellin during the 49th regular session of the GA in 2019. We presented the first of 10 reports and documents that had been drafted, where we discussed the need to create mechanisms for protection for the displaced Venezuelans, including documentation to identify them, but also to be a tool to integrate into the societies of their countries of destination.
Venezolano recientemente anunciado por el gobierno de Estados Unidos y la implementación de la Declaración de Cartagena por parte del gobierno de Brasil deben servir para profundizar los esfuerzos en crear las bases para un consenso en la región en cómo tratar de atender a los migrantes y refugiados venezolanos. Actualmente ya son 5.5 millones de desterrados.
Currently, 5.5 million displaced Venezuelans are around the world, and without a democratic transition in the short term, we have projected by the end of this year we will have 7 million migrants and refugees from that country, turning this into the largest crisis in the world, overtaking that of Syria. It's important to note that before the COVID-19 pandemic began 1 year ago, 5,000 Venezuelans were already fleeing the country every day. That is 200 people per hour. Even with the pandemic, with closed borders, approximately 900 Venezuelans escape illegally, seeking just a way to survive. They walk, cross rivers, swim through the ocean in order to find freedom they don't have in their country. Beyond cold figures, it's important to note that those fleeing are children, adolescents, men and women who have not been able to eat for days, who are systematic victims of human rights violations and crimes against humanity. And we note that the World Food Program, which won the most recent Nobel Prize, has stated that 9.3 million people in Venezuela are suffering from food insecurity or famine. That is almost 1/3 of the population there. We have noted in our visits of Cucuta the effort of the Colombian government in concert with UN agencies as well as civil society to provide food for these people, many of them suffering from symptoms of malnutrition. There are many young people who are fleeing after having been threatened, repressed, detained, or tortured by security systems at the hands of the dictatorship or irregular armed groups. Others have escaped because they are in fear of extrajudicial killings by the FAS death squads. All of these are determining factors from forced migration, and we have been able to work with the working group to collect over 600 testimonies from migrants and refugees around the region. They have all fled because they had to flee in order to survive, and this has been reflected in the reports that we have drafted, noting the vulnerabilities of the Venezuelan migrants. We have redoubled our efforts to provide them with support, and one person who might be, so that no person will be mistreated or abused for their nationality. This is the responsibility of multilateral bodies as well as local governments, which are the first authority that a migrant will encounter when they leave their country. From the working group, we will continue driving the I Am a Refugee, I Am Venezuelan campaign to raise awareness of all stakeholders in the region to fight any type of discrimination toward migrants and refugees from Venezuela. The working group reiterates its openness to supporting the Colombian government to implement the TPS. This is a policy that must be supported and defended by all, and we would like to give particular thanks to Canada for convening the upcoming International Donors Conference. Once again, finally, I must mention that the only solution to end forced migration is to accelerate the democratic transition in Venezuela. This is the only way that the Venezuelans will stop fleeing their country and will have an incentive to perhaps return and reunite with their families. The greatest moral dilemma in Venezuela is that there are no natural disasters or wars that are causing this stampede of millions of people. This is a lack of democracy and freedoms which have caused a migrant crisis that resembles that of the worst wars.
A continuación, me complace.
I'm also very happy to greet and give the floor now to Mr. Eduardo Sain, Special Representative from the UNHCR for Refugees and the International Migration Organization for Venezuelan Migrants and Refugees. Mr. Sain, be welcome. You have the floor, sir. Good morning. I'm very honored to participate in this meeting of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States. I'd like to thank Ambassador Paredes Rojas and Ambassador Roca Leon for the invitation and for having included this crucial topic on our meeting's agenda. I'd like to greet the representatives of all permanent delegations of member states, the Secretary General, Luis Almagro, the Assistant Secretary General, Nestor Mendez, and the panelists who spoke before me. We have heard a magnificent portrayal which represents the Statute for Protection of Venezuelan Migrants, the TSPV. We've heard about its scope and its relevance. As we all know, the exodus of refugees and migrants from Venezuela to Latin American and Caribbean countries is the largest and most complex human displacement that we have seen ever in the region, and it requires courageous, inclusive measures that bring us together today. And I would like to echo the words of the government of the people of Colombia for this historic measure, the feature of which is justice as one of the humanitarian gestures, which is the most important in the region. One of the main priorities of the partners in the regional platform of interagency coordination under the co-leadership of the IOM and the UNHCR is to promote inclusion of migrants and refugees in national protection programs, assistance and integration. These programs, of course, include access to health, housing, education, employment, and other measures that affect life. The full-fledged incorporation in national responses is achievable through getting access to migratory regularization and the necessary documentation. The outpouring of Venezuelan through non-official means is a trend we see today. Prevention of irregularity and an increase in risks when it comes to protection are a priority in the response plan for refugees and migrants, RMRP in English, for 2021. Working alongside plans for registry and regularizations and the campaigns against xenophobia and stigmatizing refugees and migrants, as well as the renewed efforts for socioeconomic integration and the guarantee of full-fledged access to vaccinations in recipient countries are crucial in the work that we do in the platform and the Quito process agenda. The TSPV for refugees and Venezuelan migrants that Colombia has given is a true hallmark in cooperation and in migratory governance. Included in the humanitarian efforts that are most urgent and with a very specific view to long-term integration, this is an innovative decision that will change the life of almost 1 million Venezuelans who are living in an irregular situation today. It will also at the same time offer tangible benefits to Colombian population in the communities that have received these people. And in addition to guaranteeing fundamental rights, this statute will allow us to deal with some of the most urgent needs. And refugees and Venezuelan migrants will thus have a chance to be part of the national plan for vaccinations against COVID-19 in keeping with priority groups and those that have been identified by the Colombian health authorities. To have full-fledged implementation thereof, it is crucial to keep the beneficiary populations informed and updated as to the scope and the assurance for all rights and that favor using these instruments in all public organizations. Colombia, once again, offers an example to the region, which is part of the aforementioned important initiatives. I would also like to recognize the efforts other countries have made along these lines. Peru has spearheaded with its temporary permanent permission and its foreign ID card, Brazil, that has offered a lot of refuge to these refugees. Ecuador, Chile, Trinidad and Tobago have implemented regularization processes. Uruguay and Argentina by applying their residence Mercosur agreement. And more recently, the Dominican Republic and Costa Rica have given us information on documentation processes which will be rounded off very soon. These documentation processes, as well as those that have been fleshed out by other recipient countries, are part of a set of good practices when it comes to regularization, documentation, and the protection for the refugee and migrant Venezuelan population. It is to be hoped to think about all of the possibilities that this initiative represents in the long term. We have to identify and characterize Venezuelan people in Colombia, and this is an opportunity that is very valuable when it comes to thinking about public policies and specific responses so that migrant and refugees can build a new life plan hand in hand with Colombian people. Also, it's very promising to think about all of the contributions that regularization in Colombia will bring, and which will add to productivity as we make the economy more robust and as it recovers. Refugees and migrants offer work that leads to consumption, use of new ideas. They complement and they shore up all of the existent local capacity, increasing productivity, and as such diversifying the local labor force, as well as also contribute to broadening and expanding culture. It's crucial that we commit to boost these messages as to the scope of these measures so that the recipient communities fully understand all of the opportunities that the implementation process offers. The regional platform, with its 159 partners, as well as the interagency group for mixed migratory flows, with more than 70 participants in Colombia, are prepared to contribute with their own expertise and their own capacity in the very ambitious work that will be involved in implementing the measure. Work is already being done to identify specific means and ways to support the Colombian government and to show up the commitment of all communities to ensure that specific information on the statute is made available and there's enough guidance so that for those who wish it can avail themselves of it. Colombia, like all receiving countries, needs more support from the international community to shore up its inclusion capacity and to implement these kinds of innovative measures. As part of the work of the platform throughout the entire region, we will continue to mobilize resources and provide incentives for greater visibility of the crisis as well as the response. The next donors conference, spearheaded by Canada, will be held on the 17th of June and will bring together actors in key development areas, including the private sector and multilateral banks. This Friday, I will have the honor to participate in an event in the annual IDB Assembly and speak to the central role of private sector in integration by promoting employment opportunities, entrepreneurship, business development, capacity building, and social responsibility programs. To conclude then, I hope that we can continue to broaden and use our good practices of all the governments of the receiving countries over and above national borders so that the experience of the statute becomes a driving force for integration over the long run and towards cohesion of our very dear region. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Stein. Now I should like to give the floor to delegations who might like to make comments. Let's kindly remember you about the commitments that we have in terms of how you use your time so that we don't go beyond and lose our interpretation. So I should now like to give the floor to Venezuela first. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. My delegation would like to thank you for putting this item on the agenda today. as well as thank everyone for the TSPV for Venezuelans in Colombia, and thank Mr. Espinosa. We would also like to recognize the importance of the presentations of the OAS Commissioner for Venezuelan Migrants, our dear friend, for all of that work. We'd like to acknowledge that. And Mr. Alejandro Stein, Special Representative at the UNHCR of the United Nations and the IOM for Venezuelan migrants. I'm not going to repeat the features of this crisis. It's been spoken about and been highlighted by those who have spoken before me. I would like to underscore one thing, and from the very outset of this crisis, migration can only have positive effects when these people are incorporated to the productive capacity of the receiving countries. The temporary permission, thanks to the institute that we're beginning, will allow for regularization and thus full-fledged incorporation for the Colombian productive capacity. This will provide benefits for everybody, given new employees who will be contracted and who bring experience and knowledge and their own cultural and professional enriching bagage. I'd like to thank the banking sector, which will also offer their experience. The states will benefit. There are a lot of measures that have been taken on by member states of this organization to grapple with the Venezuelan migratory situation. And a lot of details have been underscored by Mr. Stein, and as a result, I would just like to be short, and I can't thank you individually because that would be much too long, but my deepest thanks to the people in the government, to all countries who, with brotherly love, have received Venezuelans. And we are well aware of your economic help that makes it possible to plan a future life for our compatriots in the receiving countries. Similarly, I'd like to highlight the importance of the International Donors Conference that will be held in June, as spearheaded by Canada. To conclude, and I apologize for repeating anything, but once again, for all countries who will receive Venezuelan migrants, we would like to specifically thank President Iván Duque and the people of Colombia for the decisions that have been taken, and also by the investors who help people who had to throw in their towel and look for new opportunities. This will only stop when Nicolas Maduro's dictatorship ends. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much to the representative from Venezuela. I'd now like to give the floor to the delegation of Brazil. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the Permanent Mission of Colombia and ask that it convey to Mr. Obum our thanks for their participation today in the Permanent Council's meeting. Also, I should like to thank all the special guests' presentations for underscoring these important issues. Particularly, I'd like to thank Mr. Stein. Our thanks includes thanks to you for putting this agenda on the putting this item on the agenda, I should say, and also thank all of the initiatives taken for Venezuelan migrants who find themselves in an irregular situation. In the spirit of solidarity and brotherly love, Brazil works in favor of political restoration, the social, cultural restoration in Venezuela, and also to help people who flee a dictatorship, who have the right to democracy, fundamental freedoms, and access to all means for their subsistence. Brazil implements a model based on the law of migration and offers international protection and local integration with solutions to guarantee full-fledged integration for refugees and those who seek refuge who come into our country. All of the Venezuelan migrants and refugees who come into Brazil and who go to migratory authorities are documented in due course, be they as temporary residents or as refugees or refugees that are formally recognized. More than 265 Venezuelan citizens are documented in Brazil and have or enjoy a regular situation. About 130,000 have temporary residence with an opportunity to change their status into residency status for an indeterminate time. More than 1,500 are refugees that are formally recognized, and the others are requesting refuge or refugeeship. Today, Brazil is a country of the Americas that welcomes the largest number of Venezuelan refugees, which are formally recognized, and it's also the second in the world after Spain, as residents or those who seek refuge. Venezuelans in Brazil have far-fledged access to all public services, to the formal labor market, and all social benefits without any discrimination and in keeping with all of the guarantees stipulated in Brazilian law. Thus, we are perfectly in line with all of the points made by Dr. Stein this morning. Given access to social benefits like Bolsa Familia in Brazil and other services, as well as emergency aid, which was established in the face of COVID-19, in addition to other benefits. In this and anything else, this is how it works in Brazil. Venezuelans are also taken into account when it comes to measures for humanitarian assistance, which are very specific. And these are in the so-called Welcoming and Receiving Statute, created in 2018. This receiving operation, has gotten investments of $400 million. This is an estimate which does not include the costs for using public services, which I referred to before. We have more than 899,000 operations on the border, including immunization, more than 400,000 vaccines. And that's how we have more than 255 identification documents that have been issued. In terms of receiving people, the operation has shelters in Pacaraima, Boa Vista, and Manaus, with other areas that are devoted to vulnerable groups, and special shelters for indigenous people from the Warao group, who are considered another priority group in vaccination campaigns against COVID-19. The most innovative dimensions of the Brazilian policy for humanitarian welcoming are, in addition to others, a strategy for bringing people in and a prima facie block when it comes to requests for refugeeism. This has allowed for voluntary relocation of more than 47,000 people. About 640 municipalities in Brazil have been involved in this, and this effort has been done in keeping with states, municipalities, civil society, and the private sector. This is a strategy which seeks to have initiatives to be employed, and it benefits people and also provides access to public services as well. And it includes about 200 in terms of income. Now, on the other hand, we have simplified procedures to provide refuge in keeping with the Cartagena Declaration, where people have had their human rights breached. More than 46,500 Venezuelans got the status of refugees, which is first pledged recognition. Brazil's protection, Madam Chairman, will continue to support the efforts in the OAS and the countries of the Americas and other partners as well to provide humane treatment and efficient welcome to people in the region. This organization, with its host of instruments for human rights in defense of democracy, is a very important role that will support Venezuelan people. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Simas. I'd like to give the floor to the delegation of Ecuador. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I truly appreciate all of the initiatives and the presentations made by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Colombia, Claudia Bloom, Director of Migration, Mr. Espinosa, Permanent or Special Representative for Venezuelan, Mr. Stein, and the Commissioner from the OAS. All agree that the crisis of Venezuelan migration is the most serious on a worldwide level because of all the conflicts, and it is certainly the worst in all of South America. We truly appreciate the courageous efforts and the measures adopted by the Colombian government to provide assistance to our Venezuelan brothers because of the deep-seated political, economic, and social crisis. And at the same time, I would like to avail myself to briefly refer to one of the measures taken on by Ecuador to go along with the efforts that have been made. According to the calculations of the Working Group on Refugees from the United Nations, the figure for Venezuelans in my country hits 445,600 some odd people. And we have a regional plan which will cover 533,000 by the end of the year, not even to talk about those who are in transit, that are about 90,000 additional people. This is dealing with an economic and social crisis exacerbated by the pandemic. The government is firm when it comes to its commitment in helping Venezuelans. And in this regard, we have a migratory implemented or a program implemented to receive people with parity. And also we have taken on the greatest challenge when it comes to a regularization process for all benefits of Venezuelan people, applying migratory measures with access to a registry. And thus far, we have had 221,083 some odd that have been regularized. That is to say, more than 50% of the Venezuelans that have sought refugeeism. And also let me underscore the importance that the region accords to these initiatives and the Quito progress that has been around for 7 years. And when it comes to organizing some efforts, and I'd also like to thank Chile for welcoming and using this mechanism to these efforts. We have the South American Conference for Migration, spearheaded by Argentina, as well as the full-fledged participation of others in the Forum for Progress and integration of South America for work groups and others. To conclude then, I would like to point out that multilaterally speaking, we have to spearhead other activities for migration. And my country, of course, is part of this. And in the working group, we have to deal with migration. And alongside Canada, precisely, we recognize the Canadian government for being the host of the International Donors Conference to take place in June. We work alongside them for donors and Venezuelans. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Khativa. The United States has the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'd like to start out by complimenting you on your choice of colors for St. Patrick's Day, a holiday that we all celebrate here in the United States, regardless of whether we have any Irish heritage. Perhaps more importantly, I want to thank the speakers for their presentations, especially Her Excellency Claudia Blum de Barberi, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Colombia. The United States applauds Colombia's courageous and precedent-setting decision to offer Venezuelans temporary protected status. We find ourselves in the middle of the largest forced displacement crisis in the history of the Americas. Over 5.5 million Venezuelans have been forced to flee their country by the catastrophic impact of the illegitimate Maduro regime. And as we all know, Colombia has received at least 1.7 million Venezuelans, the largest number of any country in the hemisphere. Despite the twin challenges of managing this humanitarian crisis and the global COVID pandemic, Colombia has become a global leader in the lawful and humane treatment of refugees and migrants. Taking a step like the one Colombia has done is not easy, but it is one that is grounded in values that we all share. It is centered on the premise that we are all safer, stronger, and more prosperous when we have a fair, orderly, and humane policy. A policy that allows families to start their lives over and become contributing members of our societies once again. The United States would like to finish by noting that we stand in solidarity with Colombia and other neighboring countries. We will continue to work with you to support the needs of millions of Venezuelans who have been forced to flee their country. Since the start of the crisis, we have supported Colombia with more than $500 million of humanitarian and development aid as Colombia seeks to provide for the needs of Venezuelans who have sought refuge within its borders. And we are looking for ways to do more. As Secretary Blinken has said, the United States is committing itself to rebuilding and expanding our humanitarian and development programs around the world, including with Colombia. Thank you very much.
Gracias, Representante.
Thank you to the United States. Guatemala is recognized. Thank you, Chair. My delegation would like to thank you for including this very important topic on today's order of business. We would also like to thank everyone for their detailed presentations. We recognized the value of the presence of Her Excellency Claudia Blum de Barberi, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Colombia, that of Dr. Eduardo Stein, the Joint Special Representative of the UNHCR, and the International Organization for Migration for Venezuelan Refugees and Migrants. Guatemala notes the timely opportunity to congratulate Colombia for the generous and historic decision made by President Duque to provide temporary protective status to Venezuelan migrants. This was a sovereign decision and represents a clear show of humanity and commitment to human rights. In that sense, we applaud this example of brotherhood and solidarity in our hemisphere. It demonstrates that we have many opportunities to help one another. My delegation would also like to express its recognition of the excellent work carried out by our Guatemalan fellow citizen Eduardo Stein as the Joint Special Representative of the UNHCR and the IOM for Venezuelan refugees and migrants, with a regional, coherent approach supporting the situation of Venezuelan migrants and working to promote dialogue and consensus in our humanitarian response. Chair, between 2015 and 2020, over 5 million Venezuelans have fled their country. This is the largest group of displaced persons in the world, and Latin American countries have been receiving the vast majority of these Venezuelan refugees, particularly Colombia, which has 1.7 million Venezuelans. I had the opportunity to visit Colombia in 2018, and I personally was able to appreciate the incredible efforts being deployed in the face of the humanitarian crisis in that country, and also the efforts at receiving Venezuelan people, providing humanitarian assistance as well as benefits for migrants and others. My delegation appreciates the information provided from Colombia with regard to the TPS provided for a 10-year period and the strong commitment of that country to integrate Venezuelan families into Colombian society, ensuring that their rights are established and respected. It is important to underscore the generous move by Colombia. This is very important, particularly in this historic moment for the region, and TPS will open the door for those Venezuelans to legalize their situation in that country, accessing various types of temporary protection, such as access to social benefits from the Colombian government, COVID vaccinations, and others. We would like to note, as Dr. Stein stated, that these efforts on behalf of Venezuelans have also been preceded by other efforts from other countries in our region. Chair, Guatemala is respectful of the right to safe, orderly, and regular migration, and TPS represents one step toward that aspiration. My country respects international and national regulations in this area, and we strongly support guaranteeing the human rights of migrants and their families. Seeking opportunities for similar processes to support migrants' rights is a priority for Guatemala, and we recognize the important link between immigration and development. Therefore, it is imperative that we work in concert with reception countries, ensuring that their governments have a strategic goal of strengthening relationships to improve the exchange of goods and services, as well as improving the conditions of migrants. To conclude, Chair, my country would like to share that we are aware of the challenges we face in this hemisphere and that they are shared and exacerbated by COVID-19. Therefore, it is important for member states to put forth our best efforts to ensure protection of human rights of migrants in our region and not criminalize migration, to fight xenophobia and discrimination against these vulnerable populations. Today, Colombia has shown with its decision to grant TPS to Venezuelans its conviction and trust that one country cannot only benefit from migrants, but one country cannot act alone in receiving them. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. The delegation of Canada is now recognized.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and good morning. I'd like to very much start by thanking the presenters who were with us this morning, including Her Excellency Claudia Bloom, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Colombia. Canada welcomes Colombia's historic decision to grant temporary protection status to Venezuelan refugees and migrants in Colombia for the next 10 years. Several speakers already this morning have noted the significance of this decision. The decision will help facilitate the socioeconomic integration of migrants and refugees, which will contribute as well to the economic recovery of the region. Canada's Minister of International Development, Minister Gould, virtually visited Colombia on March 4th to 5th. During the visit, she heard directly from migrants, met with the Colombian Foreign Minister to discuss Colombia's generous response, and also discuss Canada's support for the response to this crisis, such as combating gender-based violence and supporting job creation for those facing increased vulnerabilities, including migrants. Le Canada est déterminé à soutenir les efforts de ses partenaires.
Canada is determined to support the efforts of our regional partners. Canada and the IDB will organize a joint event on the integration of migrants and refugees on the margins of the General Assembly held, the Donors Assembly held on March 19th. We are pleased to host the upcoming Donors Conference in solidarity with Venezuelan migrants and refugees, the 17th of June this year, in close collaboration with the UNHCR and the International Organization for Migration, as noted by Mr. Stein, who is here with us today. Canada is concerned with the continuing Venezuelan migrant and refugee crisis in many countries of the region, particularly in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. We salute the leadership of Colombia and hope to continue working with other countries in the region in order to integrate Venezuelan migrants. We are delighted to continue working hand in hand with our partners on these very important matters. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Ambassador. I have noted that the delegation of Peru had been ahead of you, but they lost connection, so I will now give the floor to the Peruvian delegation. Can you hear me now? Thank you. At the outset, I would like to thank the Colombian delegation for bringing the attention of the Permanent Council to this very vital topic. And I would also like to congratulate you for your decisions. First of all, thank you to your foreign minister. And also thank you to the very interesting presenters, Mr. Smolansky and my dear friend, Mr. Stein. I would also like to congratulate Colombia for your decision to approve this TPS for Venezuelan migrants. That is very welcome and extremely important. On the other hand, I would also like to express that, as you all know, Peru is the second largest country of destination for Venezuelan migrants after Colombia. In our country, we have approximately 1.2 million Venezuelans. Of them, about 1/2 have requested refugee status. As you will understand, this goes hand in hand with major challenges for Peruvian society, which is expressed in many different realms and activities. In healthcare, particularly in the context of a pandemic, and particularly with regard to vaccinations. Certainly, my government has decided to also provide vaccinations to Venezuelan migrants in Peruvian territory. And we also face challenges with the integration in the educational system and many other areas of society. One issue I wanted to bring to your attention is in line with what we heard from our friend Mr. Smolansky, is related to the identification of migrants. This is very important, as if we don't identify people, it's very difficult to integrate them in various activities in our societies. And we need to understand that this is not a problem that will be resolved immediately. As my colleague stated very emphatically and clearly, this is something that will take some time. And we need to seek out the best way to integrate these migrants in the societies where they have landed. In Peru, as Dr. Stein stated, we very quickly approved a temporary status in order to provide temporary residence in Peru, access to health care. We have also been sparing no effort to ensure safe, orderly migration, as well as regularization and legalization of migratory statuses. I would like to note the efforts put forth by UNHCR, the IOM, and we are all participants quite actively so in the Quito process. We hope that here within the OAS, we will also be able to make progress with activities aimed at assisting these countries overcoming these challenges posed by the vast migration from Venezuela. Special thanks to Canada for the International Donors Conference to be held in just a few months. We would like to summarize, Chair, by stating that we are thankful as this topic is deserving of the Permanent Council's attention. It is crucial, and as so many who spoke before me have already stated, not something that we will be able to resolve so long as Venezuela will not return to democratic life. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ambassador. And now we will continue in the order of the requests, and I will recognize Uruguay. You're recognized. Thank you very much, Chair. I listened to what my colleague from Peru stated, and that is almost the same thing that I wanted to say. Certainly there has been an improvement in terms of legal assistance and what we might call a sort of umbrella. And I think that that is quite clear that we have made progress when it comes to legalizing the immigration status of this huge wave of migration coming from Venezuela. It's also clear that the more umbrella mechanisms we create, we are not even close to providing them with all of the rights that they deserve in the region as Venezuelan citizens present in our countries. And that is basically because our economies often will get sucked into informal economies. And this is a paradox. So long as some economies and companies that work in the service sector increase their capitalization and generate improvements. Many who work in these companies and services are Venezuelans throughout the region. If we are making progress internationally, and we see statements from the IOM and UNHCR, we are still very far. We are so far from being close to providing these Venezuelan citizens the rights that they need and what they are requesting in order to integrate into our societies. That doesn't mean that I'm not recognizing what Colombia did. That is one example of what Ivan Duque's government has done. But what I'm saying is that this is a long and winding path, and I have Syrian grandparents, and I know what these stories are like. But that was the case of refugees fleeing a war. In this case, we don't have a war. We have a dictatorship that is winning the battle of time. It is lingering there, and it is simply refusing to take the path toward democratic transition. And so we are racing against the time, which the dictatorship is currently winning. And we need to build these umbrellas. And yet, while we are doing so, the dictatorship is continuing to grow and expand and metastasize so that it saturates the country. We need to be pleased with what Colombia has done and congratulate them, but we shouldn't sit back on our laurels. This is not a permanent solution. We need to support these migrants anywhere in the world. We need to turn to international instruments that have a respectful idea behind them, but they never quite go far enough, and they're not empirical. What we have right now is millions of people, 5.5 million migrants who do not have a place to live. They do not have a place to live. They have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow, if they're going to have food, what life is going to be like from one day to the next. So, congratulations to Colombia, but this is but a first step. And in all places that are able to, we need to be very clear with this dictatorship that this is displacement, but they need to turn to democratic transition, and this is the only way to resolve that crisis. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Ambassador. I'll give the floor to Paraguay. Very briefly, Chair. In the interest of time, which is of the essence, at the outset, I would like to thank the Minister from Colombia for her presentation, as well as that of the other presenters. I just wanted to state that my delegation is very pleased with the initiative from Colombia in the framework of the TPS for Venezuelans. We place great value on the intention of providing assistance and integration to a highly vulnerable population due to a dictatorial regime. And we have seen we need to ensure that all of these commitments are fulfilled. And this is an example for the region and the entire world. Thank you very much to those who have been involved in this process and keeping us informed of the advancement made in this very important area. Thank you very much. 1 minute, 3 seconds. Thank you, Chair. Efficiency incarnate. Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to the permanent representative of Spain, Ambassador Monton. Ambassador Monton, can you please refresh so we can see you on screen? Thank you very much. Can I continue? Thank you very much. On behalf of Spain, I would like to recognize the generous policy from Colombia. Colombia has adopted to use this TPS to assist so many Venezuelans who are currently in their territory in a pandemic context. This is a noble gesture. It's very generous. It is something that the Spanish government would like to recognize and support. Therefore, as we heard from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the EU in the meeting on Colombia last month to recognize the situation of Venezuelan migrants and bilateral relations, I would also like to reiterate the commitments of Spain to regular migration, particularly from Venezuela. This commitment to countries of destination for migrants and refugees has been materialized with so many different activities with the presidency of the MIS platform, that is a regional framework, and also with the donors conference and solidarity with Venezuelan migrants in 2020, organized by Spain and the EU. This year, we will be handing the reins over to Canada with this in 2020. We saw over 20,000 we saw high numbers of donations, including from Spain and the EU. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Monton. There are no further requests for the floor, nor are there any more comments. Are there? I would very much like that the Permanent Council take due note of all of the presentations made. I'm sorry. Colombia has asked for the floor, Ambassador. I'm so sorry. Beg your pardon. Colombia has the floor. Colombia has the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Colombia truly appreciates the comments made by various delegations who have expressed their recognition of President Ivan Duque and the Colombian authorities in issuing the statute for temporary protection of Venezuelan migrants. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Very well. Now I can say, I'm sorry, Ambassador, I really didn't see your request for the floor, but I suggest that the Permanent Council now take due note of all of the presentations made, as well as the comments made by delegations. If there are no objections, it is so agreed. Dear colleagues, the next item on our agenda refers to the electoral process in Haiti, which has been included on our agenda today at the request of the Permanent Mission of Haiti through CP/INF 8876/21. Ambassador Edmond has asked for this item to be included today, and bearing in mind the communication referring to the resolution on the situation in Haiti, and also given the various meetings that we've had on this issue, the final version of the aforementioned document is through document CP/Doc 5669 Rev 1. I'd now like to give the floor to Ambassador Hatima, permanent representative of Ecuador. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. As responsible for a group of delegations, I'm very happy to present to you as facilitator of the draft resolution that we have in CP Doc .5679 21 Rev 1. This is the text that got a lot of complex negotiations, and the parties who made comments that I'd like to recognize and underscore. And I'd truly like to thank Ambassador Sanders, who expressed interest from the very beginning on this and for preparation of the document, which various delegations offered their own contributions to, including Barbados, Brazil, Canada, Guyana, the Dominican Republic, St. Lucia, and Canada, as well as all of those others who joined the group of facilitation. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I would like to underscore the positive outcome, like a brother, of Edmund Bouchy from Haiti, which has given us a robust text. This draft reflects the general feeling of the government of Haiti, which was the main point of our work, and contributes to a peaceful and democratic solution. That is what it calls for, and as established in the text, the Permanent Council reaffirms its support to the people of Haiti and also encourages the President to work with all of the players to open up a dialogue that will deal with the needs of the people as well as other needs. In this regard, then, and with this in mind, I would like to ask the Secretary General to inform the government and other important players interested in this issue, and to have the Permanent Council intervene with their good offices, and to invite the President of Haiti to consider the possibility of inviting him to take on this role. Now, as a result of that, and as facilitator of the working group, which is open to all delegations who participated in preparing our work, and based on Article 48 of the Rules and Regulations of the Permanent Council, I would like to present this first part of the resolution so that you, Madam Chairman, can consult the Council on their willingness to consider it and approve it by consensus. This is the fruit of very constructive work that has taken into account all of the other issues in defense of human rights and democracy that are imbued in this organization, certainly in the Charter, and of representatives that participated, without whom we would not have come to this point. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Khatira, for your presentation. Well, in point of fact, as all well know, Article 48 of the Rules and Regulations of the Permanent Council stipulates that a discussion for a proposal, the urgency of which has not been dealt with in 24 hours, and that has 2/3 of member states' agreement along this line, and given that there is a consensus to consider the draft resolution on the situation in Haiti, there won't really be any need to move to a vote. If there are no objections, we shall move ahead as such. Given that, then, we would like to consider the draft resolution of the situation of Haiti in document CP Doc 5678-21 Rev 1, which, as there are no objections, as mentioned by Ambassador Khatira, is approved by consensus. As there are no objections, it is so approved. Now I should like to give the floor to those delegations who would like to refer to this item on the agenda. Antigua and Barbuda.
La delegación de
Antigua and Barbuda has the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, Antigua and Barbuda is very pleased that this resolution now enjoys consensus. This result was a work of cooperation undertaken with the best intentions for Haiti and also for the credibility of the Organization of American States. During these negotiations, many compromises were made. And as I have said before in this council, no resolution is perfect, and no resolution satisfies every delegation. But none of us can sacrifice achieving good on the altar of desiring perfection. I wish to thank all the delegations that stayed the course through the weeks of negotiations of this resolution, particularly my colleagues from the Caribbean and Canada, Brazil, the Dominican Republic, and the United States, as well as laterally the delegation of Haiti. I join others in thanking the Ambassador of Ecuador for facilitating a meeting yesterday in which the main delegations narrowed the gaps between us. This represented the Organization of American States acting at its best in an inclusionary manner and with a will to find solutions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sanders. I'd now like to give the floor to Ambassador Edmond from Haiti.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I would like to thank first the efforts that the member states have made to arrive at a consensus for this resolution. And even when the resolution moved ahead and we were able to strike a consensus, which is the custom in this organization. I would like to thank the Ambassador of Ecuador who facilitated the discussion, and I think that once again the organization stepped up, had a meeting, and the member states took into account even certain difficulties, but will continue towards democracy. Each state at that meeting accompanied the process. It was transparent towards that choice. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Edmond. I'd like to give the floor to the Ambassador of Brazil. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. First and foremost, I think that, like everybody, we should applaud ourselves for this very important resolution. We appreciate and thank Ambassador Khativa from Ecuador for facilitating this, and you, Madam Chairman, for offering us this opportunity through the Permanent Council. Madam Chairman, Brazil is very proud in its long history in cooperation with Brazil to say that we are one of the people in the group of Port-au-Prince, and we would like to thank everyone for the talks over the last 2 weeks and for all of the information offered by the permanent representative of Haiti. Ambassador Edmond gave us that, and we continue to uphold and defend the framework of those talks and the need to strike a minimum agreement for having an electoral schedule. This was expressed by Brazil and Port-au-Prince and also expressed to the Haitian authorities at different times. For Brazil, the Provisional Electoral Council is the legitimate technical interlocutor when it comes to organizing elections in Haiti. Our view is that this is not the time to question the capacity of any provisional electoral commission. We understand that any suspicion behind these organizations could hurt the schedule envisaged and would fly in the face of the main objective that we all would like, and that is to guarantee holding democratic, free, and fair elections in the country. The priority that we seek is to have legislative elections so that the Parliament can get back to its work. I don't want to run the risk of having any gap in power in Haiti as of 2022. Brazil thus favors a pragmatic and realistic approach so that we can avoid higher tensions that already exist in the country. We're ready to act in the OAS, in the core group, to build a constructive, fruitful dialogue, irrespective of the differences in Haiti, so that we can assure genuine commitment to holding elections. We understand that the role of the international community is to work on different fronts to guarantee these objectives, and the electoral timetable has to be fulfilled. Elections have to be fair, democratic, and free. We have to maintain institutional freedom and have a peaceful transfer of power in Brazil, in Haiti, that is to say. We understand that this is the approach that is imbued in the resolution we just approved. I'd like to commend the government of Haiti and Ambassador Edmond for opening up and for the interest evinced in resolving these issues. And we also thank Ambassador Ronald Sanders from Antigua and Barbuda, who spearheaded a discussion on this project, and Ambassador Carlos Khatiba, who facilitated the discussions that led to this adoption by consensus. Haiti can continue to count on our support for representative democracy according to the law and in compliance with this resolution. Thank you very much, Ambassador. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Simas. Canada has the floor.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Canada would like to support this resolution, which underscores the importance to highlight the unanimous support of member states. And there are a lot of member states that have worked on this resolution, but I really would like to point out and thank the Ambassador Sanders from Antigua and Barbuda, Ambassador Khatiba from Ecuador, and Ambassador Moshe Edmond from Haiti, all of whom worked together on this resolution that we adopted today. But I would also like to emphasize something else, and that is that Canada is very concerned, given the political situation and humanitarian situation that currently exists in Haiti. On this last point, we would very much like to avail ourselves of this opportunity to pay tribute to the people who were hurt or went down last week in the village of Dieppe in Haiti. We, Canada, reaffirm our support to the Haitian people, and we would like to encourage the government of Haiti to work with all of the stakeholders to undertake a dialogue so as to find a solution to the grave situation that the population is grappling with, and to create the necessary conditions for free and equitable elections. Once again, let me just say, it is crucial for all Haitian players work together to come up with an agreement so that the country can have a peaceful move and a democratic move towards a peaceful situation. It is imperative to take these measures to have a return to the constitutional order and democracy. For all democratic countries, it is necessary to have a legislature which is duly elective for more than a year, as is the case in Haiti. Canada is very concerned with this situation, and time and time again we have expressed our concern for the issues that have involved everyone, and it's very important that all presidential decrees be confirmed internationally when it comes to rights of all people and the principles of the rule of law. And it is possible to deal with this legitimate concern in the public, respecting, of course, all rights of citizens, and to have a democratic government that has the obligation to allow freedom of expression so as to guarantee a peaceful electoral process which is free, inclusive, and equitable. Canada would like to salute the involvement of the Haitian government to once again move towards democracy, and would like to encourage following up all of the necessary conditions and implementing those conditions. The high level of insecurity in the country, and it is necessary to get to new IDs which have been done late, and this is even more important. We would like to encourage the Haitian authorities to quickly pick up this step and do everything, do their level best to successfully meet their obligations for the Haitian people and for all democratic institutions.
Encourages Haiti to reestablish a climate conducive to respect for human rights for all. In order to do so, it's essential to put an end to endemic impunity in Haiti. The lack of significant progress in implementing the strategic development plan for the Haitian National Police, in correcting the dysfunctional judicial system, and the lack of progress in investigating well-documented human rights violations are fueling recurring cycles of gang-related violence, public distrust, and are a clear impediment to Haiti's stability, democracy, and economic development. The humanitarian situation in Haiti is also at an historic level of concern. According to the UN, 40% of the population will need humanitarian assistance by 2021. This represents 1 million more people than just 2 years ago. Canada is committed to doing its part and encourages all OAS members and observers to consider contributing to the UN Humanitarian Response Plan for Haiti. Canada is committed to continuing to work with Haiti and the international community to support the aspirations of the Haitian people for a more stable, secure, democratic, and prosperous future. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Adsett. The United States has the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We wish to thank all the delegations that worked so hard to arrive at consensus on this resolution, and in particular, Ambassador Edmond, Ambassador Sanders, Ambassador Adsett, and Ambassador Hativa. The United States is very pleased to be part of this consensus. We would also like to offer our condolences to the families of the 4 Haitian police officers who were recently murdered in Port-au-Prince. Citizens in a democracy should have the right to choose their leaders and exercise their freedom of expression. The United States has long been a friend of Haiti, and we maintain our commitment to working with the government and the people of Haiti, as well as other stakeholders, to hold free and fair legislative and presidential elections in 2021, regardless of the outcome of the constitutional referendum. I have to say we are disturbed by the current period of rule by decree, and we believe such decrees should be limited to actions necessary for essential functions, safety, and the conduct of elections. We applaud the Haitian government's decision to invite an OAS electoral observation mission to monitor elections. We think an OAS-led EOM is critical to building trust in the electoral process, while also ensuring the 2021 legislative and presidential elections in Haiti are free and fair. I'd also like to thank the OAS mission in Haiti and recognize the work that they are doing. The OAS mission in Haiti has been active in promoting democracy, stability, and economic development in that country, and it deserves our thanks and our continued support. In conclusion, Haiti has many friends here at the OAS. We are committed to working with Haiti and with other member states to address current challenges in Haiti and support the conduct of free and fair elections this year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Representative from the United States. Colombia has the floor. Madam Chairman. Colombia would like to reiterate its commitment to solve the pending challenges in Haiti. We thus offer our support of the General Secretariat's work in the OAS and will help in the current context so that we can offer all of the necessary support to guarantee and to continue guaranteeing political constitutional stability in Haiti. Colombia will follow the developments of the situation in Haiti and will express our solidarity by institutionally strengthening things in this country. And then lastly, I should also like to thank the ambassadors of Ecuador and Canada for the arduous work of facilitating things that allowed us to garner a consensus around this resolution that we just approved here. For the ambassadors of Haiti and Barbuda, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Ordonez. Chile has the floor. Madam Chairman, the many ties of cooperation with Haiti would not or cannot allow Chile to overlook the situation in this country. We believe that the solution is in the hands of the people and the government of Haiti through a meaningful, inclusive dialogue amongst all of the necessary stakeholders so that they can address with the persistent challenges in the country, especially the imperious need to have presidential elections this year alongside free, fair, transparent elections of the legislature as well. It is urgent to reestablish full-fledged institutional normalcy and a separation of powers in Haiti. These are crucial pillars in participatory democracy according to the articles in the Inter-American Democratic Charter. In this regard, we support going along and offer good offices to the government of Haiti and hope that our organization will do its level best. And for these aforementioned reasons, and once again, thanking the ambassador of Haiti as facilitator and all of the work that all of our states were involved in this negotiation process, we are happy to embrace the resolution approved. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Salinas. The Dominican Republic has the floor. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Dear colleagues, the Dominican Republic would like to salute the adoption of a resolution that was recently embraced by this Council today. We would like to highlight that this is once again a demonstration of our joint work and collective work of the members of this organization to deal with situations that are present in Haiti today. Haiti requires all necessary cooperation to help to move along its democratic process. This year, various electoral processes should take place, one of which has been delayed. At this time in history, there are economic, social, political, and environmental, humanitarian, and safety challenges. Each and every one has been exacerbated by pandemic of COVID-19, and oftentimes in the concert of nations, we have to look at other competing interests in the hemisphere. Therefore, today, this organization is making a very important step and would like to continue over time because instability in Haiti can threaten the entire region. The Dominican Republic deems that the approach of Haiti has to be multidimensional, and it's imperative to have the support and to accompany the situation by all organizations, multilateral organizations, and it is our joint responsibility. Thus, we have to clearly say there cannot be any Dominican solution. The principle of good neighborliness amongst the two neighbors cannot, nor should it ever hurt the strict compliance of Dominican international commitments. Madam Chairman, the Dominican Republic would like for Haiti more investments, greater generation of employment, food security, and more tourism, just to quote a few things, so much so that the private sector in the Dominican Republic will cooperate with Haiti, offering employment and investment in this sister nation. Notwithstanding any threats, none of that can take place if those threats exist. Strengthening relations between Haiti and the Dominican Republic is a priority for the President of the Dominican Republic. And along that line, then, we would like to underscore the mixed bilateral Haiti-Dominican Republic work, where we have technical cooperation projects in the areas of social development, border control, security, business, investment, and tourism, in addition to other things. All of this is with a view to promote development between the two countries and in both countries. The Dominican Republic reiterates its call to dialogue of all political business players in Haiti so that there isn't any violence as the Haitian people move towards peace. And we embrace holding elections in Haiti scheduled for this year, 2021, which should be free, democratic, and transparent, with observations and the good offices of this Organization of American States and the international community. And then, finally, we reiterate that our country will support any multilateral initiative that seeks to have a consensus route for the different stakeholders in the interest of peace and political stability, economic and social and humanitarian progress in this country. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Thank you very much, Ambassador Fiallo. I'd like to give the floor to the delegation of Peru.
Chair, since we began our participation in the negotiation of this resolution, we have been listening very closely and thinking of how we can contribute to strengthening democracy in Haiti. And we staunchly believe, as we have from the beginning, that it is fundamental that we have participation from the Haitian government in this endeavor in order to ensure its success. Therefore, we are pleased with the process led by Ambassador Hativa, and great thanks to him for his efforts, and that we have seen some auspicious results, and that he has been able to see this resolution approved by consensus. So we note that this resolution proves that it is possible, despite a variety of opinions, sometimes opposing opinions, to reach an agreement. This is an example that the Permanent Council is giving, and it's very valuable to underscore that. Chair, we believe that with this, we are able to contribute to the people and government of Haiti from our organization, working toward democracy. And that is why my delegation decided to support this project. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Ambassador de Sela. Argentina is now recognized. Thank you, Chair. For Argentina, the support from Haiti to this resolution was a determining factor, because once the country itself gives its consent, at least with regard to what this organization has stated explicitly, a sovereign organization, from that perspective, we were able to provide our support. Argentina will always be very careful with these types of resolutions, because even when we have a humanitarian objective in mind, this might serve as a precedent for future interference in the sovereignty of our countries. And it is with this principle that Argentina will never violate. The second perspective from which we were able to support this draft is related to the view that institutional quality and electoral quality, which we have always defended and which we will always defend, cannot be divorced from the social situation. And today, if we see elections in a European country in which the Prime Minister's party is talking about a fourth term after several years in government, where there is friction, perhaps, but not political or social turbulence, at that point, the Prime Minister might be going to work on a bicycle and the streets of his or her capital in broad daylight. Certainly, when I went to look at the figures in that country, there are $46,000 GDP per capita. And do you believe that without putting any country in the spotlight as a positive or negative example, because the first thing I always do is look at my own country, do you think that the institutional and electoral quality of that system with the economic and social rights, do you think that there's nothing to do with that? Do you think that we would be talking about a situation like this if a country from the inter-American system had a GDP of 46,000 per capita? So that is where we as Argentinian citizens need to not support this vicious cycle in which we create structural poverty in our countries. Without a doubt, that violates everything else. That even includes state structures, because when, for example, the quality of the educational system deteriorates, it deteriorates for the opposition out protesting in the streets, but it also deteriorates when, with everything else, when there is a public protest, there's someone protesting, but there are probably people from the security forces who come from the exact same structural poverty as the protester. So I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I'm saying. Please do not twist my words around. But it's not that we don't see the electoral issue as very important for formal institutions of democracy. What I'm trying to say is that a malnourished breakfast is still an institution, a housing situation that simply provides the most basic is still an institution. And so if we can't divide the institution and the electoral, we cannot look at obligations from the electoral situation in the middle of a situation of resentment, unemployment, structural poverty. And I'm not talking about any one country. I'm talking about the entire region as a whole. That is why we want free elections. Of course we do. But let's keep in mind that